3 o'clock. That means welcome to 12 weeks. This is Peak Pad. It's about peak performance, what we call GPS and wholeness, especially in a time of Corona. I want to welcome you. My name is Andre Yap. I am the founder and CEO of Ignite, House of Innovations, Home of Innovators. Today we have very special guests. Before I introduce them, as we have made it a tradition to start off these shows, I would like to ask our partners in the backstage to please accompany me by flashing some very special names on screen as I stand and honor them. In these webcasts, I try to wear white as much as I can in honor of our fallen heroes, the frontliners. These are the names of the medical doctors who have given their lives in the service of our people. If we could have a moment of silence for them, please. Start off remembering them, but also honoring them by remembering our own good fight, the fights that are entrusted to us in our own battlefronts. For us, if I could again invite our backstage partners to flash the Ignite timeline. Gang, the milestones, please. All right. I will accompany you through a brief journey. For us in Ignite, our battlefronts have always been to serve our constituents. For us, that means business leaders. We were in Tally Beach on the 11th of March for a 3-day retreat. We call that Day Zero. Our commitment, our major milestone, I will take you through 9 milestones very quickly. That was the first milestone, and we call it Day Zero. On that day, knowing what was about to happen, we scratched off our quarterly business review. There was about 30 of us there in Tally Beach. And we said, bad things are really about to happen, and we need to know who we are here for and who we will serve in these coming days, weeks, and months. And who knows how long it's going to be. So for us, that was very clear who we were going to serve. We committed that day as a team to do leadership, to serve leadership in a time of Corona. So what does that mean? In 5 days, we reached our second milestone. We could follow on screen, please. We launched a product, a digital product that pretty much gave away our methodologies for free. What is this? It's called 100-Hour Launchpad. It's a free step-by-step toolkit to launch breakthrough solutions in 100 hours or less. This is a methodology that we use year-round. And we wanted to be very focused on our business leaders and 3 pain points in particular. 3 pain points. You know? First, that in this time of panic and fear, sometimes hysteria, fake news, when the people and organizations are overwhelmed, we wanted to be able to give them number 1, focus. Help them focus, help their teams and their leaderships focus. Number 2, we wanted to help them get organized because their business operations, everything that was familiar and comfortable had been disrupted. So from focus to organization, and then number 3, to be able to mobilize solutions in 100 hours or less. So we launched that from Tali Beach on a Friday. We worked nonstop on Saturday and Sunday in order to, by Wednesday, day 5, launch the 100-hour launchpad. We have done 4 episodes accompanying our digital app and have reached more or less, have touched people 250 times. On to our third milestone. By day 10, 20th of March, we launched what is now part of the series that you are experiencing. It's called 30D, significant of 30 days of growth and transformation. It's actionable growth experiences for professionals, by professionals, freely given, freely taken, all remote work friendly. So basically, we did not want these 30 days of lockdown, if indeed it's going to be 30 days, to be just about passing the time. We wanted it to be about proactively a period of growth, transformation, grit, and resilience that we will remember as some of our finest days. Can we do that? We believe we can. That's what we're all about. That's what we're offering. Milestone number 4, we launched 30-minute Soul Pad. This is Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., centering, focus, de-stressing, centering, focus, de-stressing every day. We have done this 11 times and reached more than 3,300 people with this solution, which again was launched within 10 days. Milestone number 5, this is the experience that you are in right now. It's 12 weeks of peak performance. So we do this every Friday. And of course, I will not explain because you will experience it in the next hour or so. Milestone number 6. You can please follow. On screen? Yes, milestone number 6. All right, it's called AHA Biz. These are daily briefings, 30 minutes, Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. We sent an investigative team of 4 journalists from our team to hunt down business leaders and round up bleeding edge insights and practices that all together form the emerging shape of our new normal. So basically, there's so many people now talking about the new normal. What does that look like? Every day, we wanted to sharpen our learning curve, to be at the forefront of this and to share our learnings so that people, especially business leaders, can adapt them. There have been many wonderful insights. It's a treasure trove. Every day I listen to our team of 4 and I am amazed. We have started to call this no longer business as usual, but value as usual. How do you, in times when it's disrupted, you can't do business as usual, but you can find a path to value as usual, offering value to whoever the stakeholder is. So we've launched that a few days ago, day 20. Day 22, we're still just a little bit past that. We are on the soft launch of a venture capitalist fund where we will basically find and fund new normal ventures fast. So there's a lot of what I call stars in the bench right now. People who are used to performing at a very high level, whose businesses have gone cold, who are displaced from their work. We want them to channel their energies, their expertise, their resources into building new ventures that we will fund. We've accumulated a venture fund of 100 million pesos to begin with to fund these types of entrepreneurs who will build solutions very quickly, right, to serve in this time of need. And so on and so forth. If we fast forward to milestone number 9, this is not a promise. There is no guarantee, ladies and gentlemen. By day 30, from where we started, it will be the end of Holy Week as we know it. It'll be April 13. Should be the end of the lockdown, as we were promised. The markets should restart, but maybe not. Who knows, right? But our service and our mission is for that leaders do not wait. They lead. And for that, we want to support. This is now part of our endeavor. We will take you through this experience. We've talked about launching ventures in 100 days or less, in 100 hours or less. That's a lot of methodology, agile development, rapid prototyping, so on and so forth. No? That's the how. What we're about to dive into in the next hour is the why. What makes people whole? To be able to withstand and get beyond their own brokenness, the brokenness of others and the world around us in order to be able to, especially in difficult situations like these, still be a force for good. We do this every Friday, and today's topic, or today's theme, in the context of wholeness, is pain. Pain as a gift. And today we have 4 wonderful guests to take this journey with us so that we don't preach to you, but rather we tell stories of how we have experienced pain and how pain has made us counterintuitively more.
Everyone is okay.
We lost you.
Hello? Am I here?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can
we
you hear
lost.
me?
Where are you at, Ray?
We lost.
Did you? Am I here?
I can hear Manny.
Yeah,
Let me.
we lost you, Andre.
I'm here. I can hear you, Manny.
Yeah, I can hear you too, Tony, very clear. It's just Andre. We lost Andre.
I'm back.
Yeah, we lost Andre.
Am I back?
Now you're back. Your screen is a bit blurry.
Okay, I think we were reconnecting. I apologize about that.
Problem.
Can you hear me now?
Very clear.
Okay, let me
No, it's
introduce
clear
our
now.
guest. Let me introduce our guest. Let's begin with Augustine Thomas of the Society of Jesus. Father Gus, I met him one day after Mass in Ateneo. And I asked him, "Are you from India? You don't look Indian to me. You don't sound Indian. What's wrong with you?" And then he explained to me his story. Father Gus's story is basically he was born in Kerala, in India, and he joined the society in 1993, eventually serving in his last post of command as the president of the Jesuit University of Kathmandu. He is now in the Ateneo, completing his PhD in leadership studies, majoring in organizational development. Now, interestingly, Father Gus's doctorate is shining the light on Nepal's prominent business leaders, focusing on how Jesuit education shaped the leadership of non-Christians. So if you welcome Father Gus, say hello, please.
Hello, Brother Gus.
Don't forget to unmute your mic. May I ask our featured guests to unmute their mics, please, just so you don't forget. Father Gus, you're still muted. There you go.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Namaste. Hello, everyone. Hello.
Good afternoon, Father Gus.
Hello, Father Gus.
Next up, we have a man of an unstoppable gentleman. I call him Tito Manny. He's a good friend of the family. He's the chairman of the Manny O Group, which owns award-winning tourism and hospitality brands. And believe me, if you see this man in action, especially when he's touching his products, his brands, his properties, you will see somebody who exudes and exemplifies quintessentially quality. He will not compromise, and that's why he has award-winning brands. These include the 5-star Movenpick Hotel, Mactan Island in Cebu, including Ibiza, the property there, Cebu Pacific Catering, Sky Kitchen, and Sky Solid Logistics, which services PAL, and other NAIA carriers, and something I really enjoy, the 238 times globally awarded Manny O Wines. Of course, we stopped counting at 238. Maybe he has some updates. Tito Manny, if you say hi, please.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon.
Okay. Last but not the least, we have a very rare Pagsaysay awardee. That is our version in Asia of the Nobel Peace Prize. Joining us is Tony Meloto. He is one of our country's, this is my claim, this is not his claim. As an innovator, I look up to Tito Tony as one of our country's great innovators. He has a vision, he makes it come true. And his vision always ends up impacting millions of people, millions of Filipinos, and he ends up embracing the whole world across hundreds of countries to become part of his mission. These include visions and innovations of brands that need no further introduction, from Couples for Christ to Gawad Kalinga to Enchanted Farm, Human Nature, and so on and so forth. I guarantee you, and you will hear in his stories, he is not done. The man at 70 plus is not done. Tito Tony, if you'll say hi, he's joining us via Viber.
Hello. Glad to be here. Stay well. Stay safe.
You sound well, Tito Tony. Last but not the least, we have, I get to pick on her today. We turn the tables around on her. Usually she is the host. Usually she is the host of our program. She has spent 20 years in the aviation industry and has really focused in the latter years of that aviation career on leadership training and experiences for leaders across more than 100, I think it's 120 countries. But she knows a thing or two about leadership. Lately, she came home and has been into well-being, wellness as a yoga instructor, but also has joined us in Ignite. She's now the co-founder and managing partner for our Ignite Center for Peak Experiences. And she knows a thing or two about pain. Of course, she works with me. So can we welcome Joana Alberto, please.
Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be alongside these three honorable gentlemen. Three.
So, with those introductions, let us dive right in. If you will give me a quick second. So if I may ask Keng from our backstage to please accompany me as we flash our talk point. Notice I said talk point. There is one focal point for this conversation. And we'll wait for Keng to bring up the screen so you can follow along. And then we'll dive right in. Do we have the visual? Okay. All right. So if you will follow with me, I will just introduce the focal point. How has this been true in my life? As much as my joys, my pains are every bit the bearer of my gifts. Pains I have personally experienced, be it in my own life or with and through others. Pains that nag and gnaw at my comfort zones, that make me restless and push me to do more. Pains that allow me to care deeply. Not just about my inner circle of family and friends, but about human and societal conditions I share with others, perhaps with hundreds, thousands, or millions of others. Pains that open my heart to compassion and the willingness to embrace every bit of my gifts to make a better world. What are these pains that have been gifts in my life? How has pain led me to empathy, to compassion, to love? Yes, love. How has pain inspired in me the openness and willingness to act and be of service to others, to care deeply, and to give the very best of me to others? So this will be the subject of our conversation, pain as a gift. So we will get started. We will let each of our friends open up. These are considerable brains, minds, and hearts that we have in our midst. And it is an honor for us to be able to hear their stories. So if you can open up and start with, tell us a little bit about the pains that have been very personal to you. So we get an understanding about the starting point, no? And normally we would say ladies first, but since this is about pain, I think we need a gentleman to go first. I will just go in the order with which I introduce our friends. So Father Augustine, Father Gus, Would you like to tell us about your experience of pain to start us with?
Sure. Thank you, Andre, for this opportunity to be part of this platform. What I was reflecting upon this very theme, pain, something that is very invisible. We can only feel them, and others can only sense them. It's so difficult to articulate into words of experiences. However, this has been my experience when I look back at my life. There are three phases of pain. First was physical, that I experienced the punishments of the parents. When I did something wrong, the punishments of the parents led me into better actions. A quick change of action just because of painful stick or a pinch or teachers keeping you outside the classroom, that brought into a change. Second one was during my much younger age, I would say, college days, the psychological pain I went through, the desire for revenge when people hurt you, or the desire to be on the top of the line at always, more interested in somebody else's grades than my own grades, that I want to be the first, the sense of jealousy, anger, insecurities, this outburst of all of them happened at young age. The pain that I went through is all very internal, a churning feeling inside, and unsettled feeling, which had to be healed through a long journey of self-awareness and also constantly working on each and every point through personal guidance. And that becoming that happened through that process, that was a gift. So what I went through was not a waste, but I became, or continue to become, is the gift. But most importantly, what I go through at the moment every day is the spiritual pain, the pain of the soul, especially when you see the pain of the people, when you feel the helplessness for not being able to reach out to the people who are in need. When you see poverty, people crying, great suffering, inequality, this is a spiritual, soul is at unrest. You take a lot of initiatives. Personally, I suddenly, when I can think of an example, is when there was the earthquake in 2015 in Nepal. On the very second day, I, along with my staff, looking at the news that we couldn't stay at home. A few motivated staff and me, we went out to a remote village with whatever food that we could gather and the shelter that we could provide for them to stay outside. And then that became a starting point of a lot of good actions for the school and for the people, for a greater network. That's what I'm talking about, the pain of the soul. That's not a one-term project. Every day, I experience new pain in the soul, new restlessness. That leads into a lot of love, a lot of compassion, action, but it is never end at the end of the day. That would be my a short way of explaining what I have gone through in my life.
That's a lot, Father Gus. Thank you for that. We'll certainly jump back and circle back into your story. Thank you. Manny O, tell us about pain.
Yeah, when you started the discussion earlier, prior to me reading the subject of this conversation, I could relate very well on the word pain. And you started talking about brokenness. I really believe that the best thing that happened to my life is pain that led me to brokenness. Because I believe unless one is broken, there will be no change in the either person. Because when I was younger, I never realized that It was the gift of God that that gave me a good brain, a very relentless personality, to do everything in perfection. So I was, believe sa sarili, it was all about me. That was how I started. Then, the first pain that the first true pain that I experienced was after the martial law, for the reason of the mind wanted to keep the family safe. My 4 children were young, very young. So we decided to move to Canada. We migrated to Canada. But before the martial law, all the businesses and the things that I touched became gold. So during martial law, we decided to move away to Montreal, Canada, and thinking that I'm so good at what I do, I started setting up businesses, not just sit back and relax. And to make a long story short, in Canada, everything I touched became shit. So, but I didn't realize. I didn't realize that God was teaching me a lesson. So then during the later part when I was in Canada, in Montreal, my wife, Grain, contracted cancer. So that was my first bout of pain, but I wasn't broken. So I decided after 5-6 years, move back to the Philippines. Literally everything that I did in Canada went bankrupt. So I had to start all over. On a business sense, it was a very, very wrong decision. That during the martial law time, I moved away. All my friends who stayed there, everything, all the property prices, everything was depressed. So instead, they started buying. So I left and came back with almost nothing. When I came back, the property prices that I was looking at, I mean, that I could remember when it was so depressed, easily went up 20 times. Andre, could you come back to the screen, the main screen, because I think I feel more comfortable when I'm talking to someone on the screen.
For that, Google employs some automatic technology that it's only when I speak that I come up on screen.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So I am squarely in front of you, Tito Manny. I am hanging on to every word, and I can almost see the pupils of your eyes.
Yes.
Please don't threaten us, because I know you.
I became so emotional. I become emotional when I talk about this.
Yeah.
So I had a feeling that God was teaching me a lesson. Not to be proud and not just think about myself. So fast forward, because we don't have all day to talk about this. As I said, when I came back to the Philippines, I had to start from nothing again, which was very, very difficult. So after I came back to the Philippines, I started being me, always wanted to do something, and something that would excel. I started building a project here, which is today the Movenpick Hotel Mactan Island Cebu complex, because it has 3 towers, with a total built area of 127,000 square meters. I went through Asian crisis. So I again went literally bankrupt, because that's why I call this project the most difficult 3,000 plus days of my life. But God again was subjecting me to fire, to truly humble me, and to make me realize I am nothing without Him. So during that time, Graham's cancer, my first wife's cancer, progressed. That was when the time that I decided to surrender my life. That I am nothing. In fact, the Lord led me to the scripture in John chapter 15, verse 5, that He said, "For without me you can do nothing, and you're nothing." You know, in a little period, Graham went to join the Lord at 41 years old. But I continued to struggle to revive my business. Somehow, after such a long period, God decided to look at me. He could have decided to leave me alone and let me, in mud. So He just presented so many projects that literally I had to do very little. And to fast forward, in a few years after the Lord most difficult 3,000 days of my life, He expanded my organization to maybe 5-10 times bigger. And if I look back, this expansion of my organization, I literally had to do very little. So He was teaching me that it's not all about me. That's why I adopted that corporate philosophy for my whole organization, and teach everyone in my organization that it's not all about us. So when I turned 60 in 2013, even during that period, there's still a part of me that everything I do is for my benefit, and of course, my people's benefit. In 2013, we all know that the world's biggest typhoon, Yolanda, followed a great earthquake here in the Visayas in a matter of less than 2 months.
Yeah.
Yolanda, our hotel housed 3 contingents, foreign contingents, who flies out of Cebu every morning at like 5-6 a.m. with all the aid and supplies that came to this airport from all over the world. It was all stuck in the airport here in Cebu. Fly them to Leyte. And then they fly back in the evening and stay here because there's no place for them to stay there. So I would have a few chat with them. Then I would go home, watch television. That was when God truly impressed in my heart when I was watching the television, that people who were hurt with typhoon, they're not dead yet. They were just literally scattered on the ground. I can just imagine the slow death that many of them have to die. So that was when the Lord impressed in my heart the idea of it's not all about me. So that was when we started the Hope Now Foundation. I said in the past we would do some charitable work. I call them charitable work. But we realized that that was not true charity, because when we see some problem, we would put, some money and send to help people. But it was not sustainable. So that's why I said we have to do something sustainable. That was how the Lord changed the way I see things and how I do things. So basically, that's the short story of my long story about brokenness and pain. Again, I just recap that with a short statement that I think it was 20 few years ago that I was invited and selected finalist of the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year. I was asked what would be my view of business. So through all these experiences, what I shared was that big or small organizations today in the world, there is one thing that I observed that probably has to change. Mostly companies invest so much in building skills, but there is so little invested in building character. That's my take of business. Andre?
Very well. Thank you, Tito Manny. I mean, I can do a little testimonial for this guy. No, I mean, when you first meet him, you're taken aback because he has such a strong personality. When he talks about being a perfectionist, when he talks about his considerable mind, his relentless character, you will really see a person who is, even after all this story of pain that he took us through, still a scary character. You know, I am not the type of guy can ask anybody who gets intimidated, but this guy here intimidates me. Listen, we're gonna leave you first, Tito Manny. We're gonna go to Tony Meloto. I just want to assure the audience, no, this is not about giving the stage to people so we can hear sob stories about what happened to them. We just need to have this runway so that we can lay out the baseline stories. You can understand where each of our characters is coming from. And then from there, we will start dissecting how has this made them not just the proverbial better person, but more specifically, how have they found, how have they defied all this brokenness in order to become more a continuous force for good throughout their lives. And we will hear that, and that is going to be the point of our storytelling today. So with that, I want to then bring up the mic for Tito Tony, who will be joining us via Viber. So we will not be able to see him. I encourage my partners on the backstage, if you can do anything visually to make it more appealing for our audience, maybe a picture of Tito Tony or something, please go ahead and do that. Meanwhile, Tito Tony Meloto, please tell us all about pain.
Hello, Andre, and to my good friend Manny, whose story never ceases to touch me. And today I'm here. It's a very rare opportunity for me to speak to an audience like this. But the topic interests me because I turned 70 this year. And with what's happening, the elderly in the world today are the most endangered species. Of course, we are nearer to the end, but I was just moved last night when I was listening to a report about coronavirus in Italy, and the doctor in the hospital said that they no longer treat people who are in their 70s and 80s because they have very less chances of survival. So I guess at this point, we are really in a world in pain, and people my age are feel that this is no way also to cap a long journey. And so feel that by just sharing what I feel and my own lifetime journey of pain, maybe I can also really connect with people who are feeling much worse. Like in America, the report this morning was that over 10 million people have lost their jobs, and a lot more. But a lot of people have lost their jobs, a lot of their lives. A lot of people are still suffering physical pain. But the world is gripped with the pain of fear, not knowing when this will end, and not knowing that what other consequences will happen now with the economic downturn and so on. But just allow me to say that maybe my life has also prepared me for what is happening now. When I retired, when I turned when I turned 70 this January, two things happened up to today, and I felt that maybe there is a message for me. One is the Taal eruption happened near my birthday, and so what happened was that I was near Taal, about 17 kilometers from the center, but God may have spared me again, because the farm where I retired was not hit at all. So we became the feeding center for about 1,000 people every day in the surrounding area. But what was to me very evident was that the most affected during the time are again the elderly. They did not want to leave their endangered homes. They somehow they felt so helpless. They felt so powerless. And I guess that's the kind of pain that I had to deal with at this stage in my life. Now with the Taal eruption, and then coming after that COVID, it's again the elderly who feel helpless, powerless, most vulnerable. But let me start that maybe my own life journey, God prepared me as a very ordinary Filipino. I was born in pain. Poverty was the first pain that I experienced. My parents never owned land or home or car, went to public school. So always the need for also the poverty of opportunity. But somehow it is the pain that also shaped the human spirit, the greatness of the human spirit. And very early I learned to also fight the pain of being poor, the pain also of a dysfunctional family, because two of my siblings were severely retarded, and three of my other siblings died of cancer early. So I could feel the pain of Manny losing his wife. I lost my eldest brother when he was 37, my second brother when he was 44, my sister at 33. But somehow God has a way of giving us life lessons from the pain that we go through. Because eventually, my children put up human nature, natural organic products as their way also of dealing with whatever DNA that has predisposition to cancer that they may have inherited from me. And I am really grateful to God that my children and my 11 grandchildren, that there is no retardation, and somehow He has blessed me with healthy, normal children and grandchildren. But again, just it's the pain that we go through in life that shapes our destiny. And because I was homeless, eventually God also brought me to see that the whole world was my home. So he eventually helped me to fight the pain of helplessness and powerlessness by working with other people who had the gifts that I don't have, the resources that I don't have. So, but first I had to also discover God's plan for my life. Why was I born ordinary? Why was I born also with physical handicaps? Why am I blind in my left eye? And at the age of 38, why was I given an incurable disease called psoriasis that made it painful for me just to go through my day with all these lesions and scales that I have in my body, and so on. So this the physical pain, the mental pain, the spiritual pain, and so on. But then I guess it's again the greatness of God and the greatness of the human spirit of people that He created in His image and likeness. So my way out of poverty basically was education, and education helped me to discover the things that I was deprived of any land to inherit. I was deprived of any business or trust fund from poor parents. But somehow education helped me to really develop myself as a son of God. And so I got a scholarship to the US, in high school, got a scholarship to Ateneo, and went to a multinational company for my corporate job and so on. So doors just started opening, but it built also up my ego to believe that this was happening because I discovered that I was intelligent, or I was smart, or that I was highly competitive and so on. But it was finally when I met God in Couples for Christ that I realized that He allows I am what I am because He has a plan for me, and all I have to do is to realize that my life is nothing. It is not dedicated to helping other people deal with their own pain. So again, raising my family, I joined Couples for Christ. Without Couples for Christ, I would probably not have remained married. But I've been married for the last 41 years because as an imperfect husband, I was given an imperfect wife. But somehow I realized that it is the perfection of God's love that allowed us to just help each other to become better persons because of our love. And so also starting the ministries for Youth for Christ, Singles for Christ, Kids for Christ, it was really, again, raising a family according to God's plan and building a global movement, bringing this movement with many people who share the same value for the family. And Couples for Christ and Youth for Christ grew to so many countries around the world and may have transformed the lives of millions of people. So again, it's ordinary, imperfect vessels like me, and who has to go through the pain of so many people, that are being used by God to also heal the pain of others. So again, because I was landless, homeless, and hungry, the Lord also helped me to be surrounded by good people, to start Gawad Kalinga and Manny. Oh, you were a big part of that after Typhoon Haiyan. And also Andreo, Father Ben, also helped out when we started to transform the slums of Manila. So again, because it's God's work, all we have to do is show that simple or people like us can do it by the power of God and also by our shared humanity, that we can transform slum after slum and even also transform some dangerous areas in the rebel-infested areas to become more peaceful. So it's been a long journey, and right now I'm at this stage in my life after retiring from the movements that I was a part of. I became a farmer in Batangas, and it happened that we had this year the Taal eruption, and then this COVID, and the whole farm right now is also locked down and under quarantine. But what is amazing that our farmers have jobs. They keep on planting, and we're able to provide them work. They don't have to go out and endanger their lives because they work inside the farm. They have their homes, and they're producing food not only for the community, but they're also sharing the food with the surrounding barangay. So my goal is, after when this is over, is to really focus on helping the elderly cope with loneliness, with helplessness, with hunger. We have already started our fellowship for the senior citizens in the town of Cuenca, in the town of San Jose. But what we would like is to help people really age gracefully and die peacefully when it is time. So again, by helping ease the pain of others, that's how I also am able to transcend my own pain. Because pain will always be with us until we are laid in the ground and and we are united with God, and pain is no more.
Thank you, Tito Tony. Gentlemen, wow, I can barely keep up. I cannot keep up with your pains, I must say. Joana, will you go a little bit easier on us?
Yeah, I will.
Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, everyone. Okay. I turned 50 last June, and this is the first time that I actually looked back and tried to figure out what are the pains that I went through all these years. And as I was looking back, I was thinking of three major pain that I felt, and it's zeroing in on brokenness. Those three emotions or state that I was at is the feeling of rejection, insecurity, and betrayal. So I just noticed that these three feelings were, it kept coming back to my life in the three stages of my life, looking back. So during my childhood days, I'm sure everybody has like some sort of painful memories during their childhood. The feeling of insecurity and rejection was really strong from my end. I was skinny and ugly, so I had that feeling of being not enough. I don't have like that confidence, and I got bullied as well. I had some other painful experiences that I'm not comfortable talking about in public, but what I will be talking about now is more of the things that probably other people can relate to in terms of when they were growing up. Because as far as I know, I'm into wellness and wholeness. I know that these painful experiences during your childhood days it gets embedded in your subconscious, and you take it with you all the way, even to the late part of your life. So anything that happens in the latter part of your life is actually magnified because of these pain that you have experienced during childhood. So long story short, during my childhood days, I was the only daughter. I was the only girl in the family. I grew up with cousins who are all boys. Have two brothers. That feeling of being alone and without having no one, that's pretty strong. And being bullied as well during my elementary days. These actually led me towards my later years to be drawn to help foundations that deal with children who are exposed to abuse, physically, mentally, emotionally. I got involved with Ephesus Home for Abused Girls in Bulacan, and I've been drawn to help out like Kite Foundation, Relani, and other Sweet Children foundations. I've been drawn to that because of my experience in those childhood years. And then moving forward, like Andre mentioned, that I was in the airline industry. I was with a local airline for 18 years, and I went to Abu Dhabi. I was there for 9 years as an OFW. And during the time, again, the feeling of rejection, betrayal, and insecurity it keeps on surfacing. During that time, of course, any OFW would know the anxiety, depression that everybody is facing when you're out there alone. I was so blessed that I was in the airline industry. I could come home to my family every now and then. Sometimes I'm here every week because I fly. But I got involved with a lot of communities, one of which was Tito Tony's Handmaids of the Lord. And I was like just immersing myself into a lot of other community service. I was a lay minister. I was also involved in doing outreach, polo, in the embassy, we have this polo in Abu Dhabi, wherein the abused domestic helpers are being brought there and they're housed there until they get to be shipped out of Abu Dhabi once their papers are processed. So I was exposed to these kinds of pain. And since handmaids of the Lord are all women, and as well as in the Polo community, they're all women as well. I've seen the pain that Filipino OFWs were exposed to. We were talking to Filipinas with, those iron marks on their chest, broken bones because they had to jump from the terrace just to escape from their employers. And also this everyday pain that each and every OFW is going through in terms of being away from their family. I would see OFWs eating eggs every day or pancit canton every day, and then sending money home to buy iPads for their children. These little pains that you see each day is, for me, is something that was eating me up, especially for mothers. I was blessed to meet Ambassador Grace Princesa there. She was also a handmaid of the Lord, and I believe she's now based in Rome. She's the ambassador there, if I'm not mistaken. And she was telling us to bring the Filipina mothers, the Filipino OFWs home back to their families, to their husbands, to their children. And that really, really struck a nerve. And that's something that I can really relate to. I have a son, and I've been married for 27 years now, and I love my family. And I cannot imagine surviving those 9 years not seeing them at least every month. At least every month. And during the time as well, I was blessed to be able to be involved with another community wherein we transfer the image of the Divine Mercy to different homes. There I was also exposed to the different homes of Filipino OFWs. And this is another pain that I went through. I know Tito Tony Meloto can relate to this, in terms of building communities. I was able to help to build a community. I was inspired by the founder here in Manila to do that. And I was able to bring others as well to propagate this devotion. But in the long run, no matter how hard you try, no matter what you do, you cannot please everyone. No matter how pure your intentions are, people sometimes will just, think that you are doing something that is not pure. And no matter how much you explain it, they wouldn't simply believe. So apparently that community I was building just collapsed. And I just gave it to somebody else. I was like giving it to a silver platter, and to someone, told her, just take it, I'm gonna let go of it and just build it. And apparently, God was telling me that I shouldn't stop from doing what He has asked me to do. What I did was I started another community from scratch, doing the same thing. And I'm so happy now that it's thriving. Until now, I've been out of Abu Dhabi for 4 years already. And I still see members of that community doing the same mission of transferring the image of the Divine Mercy to different homes and bring light and hope to the different OFWs. It's now in Dubai. It's now in Alain. I don't know where it is now, but it fills my heart. The pain of mine and the light of God that pushed me to not to stop is actually what propelled me to just keep on going. And then moving on to the latter part of my life, the third part of my life, is when I'm back here already in Manila, 2016. When I got back here, of course, the pain of each and every OFW is reintegration. What will happen next? I have a lot of friends that come back here. They have some, money to start some businesses. But after a year, everything that they've saved is gone. So they will be starting again from scratch. That was eating me up. I said there has to be something that I can do to do this. Because before leaving Abu Dhabi, I was already preparing to come home. And I was thinking I could share what I did so that when OFWs come back home, they would know what to do. They're already prepared. They have invested in themselves already. So that's another pain that I was going through. But at the same time, the feeling of rejection, again, betrayal, insecurity, it still keeps on popping up. I started, I wrote a book about wholeness, about wellness, and I started getting into corporate wellness. Yes, I am a yoga instructor, but I was more on the corporate wellness side. Well, I was struggling to spread the word that wellness is very important, that life will be meaningless if you are not taking care of yourself. Like if you're not physically well, how can you serve others, right? So that's what I was trying to impart on people. So when I got back, that is another pain that I was like trying to embrace so that I'll be able to serve others, to be able to share this message. But apparently when I got here, people, they don't care about wellness. Like the corporations that I would send this message, they would rather invest on skills or things that they can see direct results or impact in their operations. So I was also struggling to have that sort of message given to the people until I met Andre, and we had this. Andre, you're there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Andre. Okay, so I met Andre yeah, 2 years ago, and he was able to direct me in such a way to be able to figure out what I can really give, so that to give me direction in terms of how I can share my gifts and talents and skills, so that I can help people understand the same thing, what they can give to the world in terms of the gifts, talents, and skills. Okay, so now the last part of it, while doing this, Andre knows it's not a very easy journey for us. There was ups and downs in Ignite, and we had to keep on evolving for us to be able to impart this message of wholeness in terms of our GPS, in terms of our navigation system, in terms of what do we have that we can give to others. And along this journey, because of being probably out of frustration, out of stress, another thing came up, and I got myself so stressed out that I got into anxiety and depression. I wasn't clinically diagnosed, but I was having already physical manifestations of anxiety and depression. So the whole of last year, that was what I was dealing with. And as the days progressed, I was like sinking deeper and deeper into that emotional spiraling down of negativity, trying to cope with those crazy thoughts in your head that are not real, trying to figure out what your truths are, finding your direction again. It was like it was like a Ferris wheel, up and down, round and round, trying to be able to cope each day, managing your emotions, managing your thoughts. It's a good thing that I'm into wholeness and wellness, and I'm a yoga teacher. Those tools that were helping me out and keeping me sane. So now, moving forward, Andrea and I was able to come up with this Ignite Center for Peak Experiences, and the center is now zeroing in on how people can be whole. So this anxiety and depression that I went through as well propelled me towards that direction, so that I'll be able to help people find their wholeness in their own way. So I guess that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Joana. Thank you, Father Gus, Tita Manny.
Was that like enough?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mic check again. Okay. All right. So Mike's back to me. Okay. So you again. Thank you. You passed a lot for me to handle. It's almost mind and heart numbing to listen to all of you. Although I did listen with a certain amount of, I don't know if pleasure is the right word, but I must say I enjoyed your stories of pain. I'm sorry to say. But here's the point. Here's the point. Father Gus talked about physical, social, spiritual pain. There's the pain of betrayal, cruelty, infirmity, sickness, loss, death, failure, inadequacy, insecurity, bitterness, despair, anger, lack of forgiveness. Pain comes in so many forms. And what I want to zero on right now, because I always tell my people in Ignite, what we're doing is not about holding hands and having kumbaya moments, right? It's not just about feeling and realizing things. Above all, to ignite means to act. To act. We cannot keep all this pain bottled up within ourselves. And, so for example, this hits a very raw nerve with Joana sometimes when I question, what are yogis really doing, right? Well, all these people doing yoga, breathing in and out, and achieving some sort of zen within themselves. But if all of that stays within yourself and you're not able to channel it outside, what is the point, right? So I see this as self-indulgent wellness, right? To me, and the question I would like to throw to our four dear friends and to the audience, by the way, all these are meant to be self-reflections, discernments for our very selves. Our four guests are just merely here to help us jog our own thoughts, so to speak, get our own juices flowing about our own truths about pain. So my question is, if pain is going to be a gift, it has to be a matter of what we call compassion, right? Let's focus on the word compassion as opposed to empathy. Sometimes those two words are mixed together. But there's a very big difference between empathy, which is feeling your pain, maybe because I felt it too. That's empathy. Versus compassion, which is I feel your pain. I know it because I felt it too. But I am not content with just feeling it. I am compelled now. I am almost driven, obsessed to act. So, while this is not a religious conversation by any means, if you look at the Bible, for example, Jesus is never in stories where he is just empathetic. Jesus is compassionate, right? Because he needs to act. He needs to channel out this pain, which he feels, because he's experienced it, into action. So my question to all of you is, as much as we've heard your pains, we want to understand how in your very personal experiences in your own life, how has pain compelled you to compassion, to act, to shape the way you behave, the way you wake up every day, and what you do every day? I think, and I would challenge everybody to have this inner discernment as well. How have our own personal pains forged in us a life of action? How has it shaped our behavior? How has it shaped our decisions? What we do every day because of our pains. And hopefully the good that we are able to do every day. So I throw the floor open to all of you. Again, in one sentence, pain should not get stuck with us. Pain should not just be empathy. I know your pain. No, it must be, I know your pain and therefore I am compelled to act. I am compelled to shape my life so that I can address your pain, which I myself have gone through. How has this been manifest in your own life? And let me dare say, in your own leadership. Please, the floor is yours again. Whoever wants to speak, including the audience, by the way. But please, go ahead. Tito Manny, I see you nodding.
Yeah, I'll just say a few things. I have so much, as I said, I went through so much pain in my life, real experiences. I would go first to the message, we have to understand that all the pain, all the trials that God put through our way has a message. As you said, this is not, we're not talking about religion here. However you look at it, even with this coronavirus, this is a disaster of the mother of all disasters, the crisis of all crises. I mean, I don't think anyone who is alive today in their lifetime have ever seen a crisis that's global. When you see a typhoon or an earthquake that basically is zoned to an area,
Yeah.
it's not the whole world. And this is actually, I believe, it may come out very strong, that God is speaking very loudly, screaming and questioning the misuse of knowledge, ability, power, and the arrogance of people. Because it's very clear in the Word of God, the Bible, which I look at it, Bible, as basic instructions before leaving Earth. Basic instructions before leaving Earth. I got that from Pastor Peter Tanchi's son, you know. So in Hebrews chapter 12, since we talk about, you talk about pain is inflicted, what does it do to us? And we talk about character earlier. And in Hebrews chapter 12, it talks about, for whom the Lord loves, he chastens. For what father who loves his son, who doesn't discipline his son? So basically, this is something that would put us back, everybody in lockdown, to ponder and think very hard. What is the message of God? What is he telling us? Put through to me by a guy who is head of a very big organization, saying, what do you think is the message? So the message for me, the way I see it, it's basically questioning the intelligence of human being, because until today, nobody really, they have some clues, but they don't have an answer of either how to cure it or how to stop it. You know, everybody's scrambling. Put into question the intelligence of man. That I think is what's happening. So, if I want to move forward to talk about how has pain and brokenness, God made me broken some time ago, helped me. In fact, for me, I call it a blessing. Why do I call it a blessing? You talk about it and pray that, you know, it's good. Yes, I can 100% confirm with you, pain and brokenness is definitely good. Because as I said, it built my character, and I hope it builds the character of a lot of people. This is what I would say. The Lord used pain and brokenness to make me discover a different kind of fulfillment. And I'm able to experience that because, praise God, He gives you the grace. Instead of being bitter and angry, to decide to examine myself and say, what do I have to do to take this brokenness and pain away? Because I'm always a businessman. I was born in an entrepreneurial family. I was always taught how to do business. And I'm proud that literally all of my family members are entrepreneurs. You know, they know exactly what to do to make money. So everybody thinks making money makes you very happy. Yes, it does. I'm not questioning it doesn't make me happy. But God used pain, the pain and the brokenness He put into my heart to discover something better than happiness. When I started the Hope Now Foundation, as I said earlier, right after Yolanda, the first person I approached was our friend here, who's one of the one Tony Meloto, to say, I want to do something sustainable. And I gave him my story. So me and Tony had a lot to share about. We shared a lot of tears together and laughs together. That's why, on to sidetrack a bit, the Hope Now Foundation, since then, we have built 5 communities of 200 houses, built of basically hollow blocks, concrete. And we gave livelihood program and also mentoring to these communities to make it sustainable, make them entrepreneurs in the future. Because I shared this when I was with Tony in Washington, D.C. one time, attending the Global Philanthropic Forum, that I told this to big businesses. I said, if we are able, on the side of entrepreneurship, help these people who basically to become entrepreneurs one day, and they will be sufficient in their income, they will be all our future customers. In fact, it all goes back to the big businesses or to businessmen. So my point is, I even share this when I speak. Sometimes I go to the communities. I told them, I said, my prayer and my hope is that one day, that not only not only the people who are big business, your children or grandchildren, great-grandchildren will build a bigger hotel than mine. That is when I consider myself successful. Because the sad thing today is, we all know more than 90% of the wealth of the world belongs to less than 10% of the people. It is really completely lopsided. This is why we have so much trouble in the world. This is why God brought us to this situation now with this COVID-19 corona. And I've been pondering about it. And I agree with what Tony, or one of us who was saying earlier, that God has a plan for us, for each one of us. We are all His instruments. In fact, it's very clear in the Word of God. It says, you will know them by their fruits. So it is up to us. It gives us the free will to decide whether we're gonna use our lives, the pain that we are going through, the brokenness that God put in us, to make it, to bear good fruit, rather than to become a problem.
Tito Manny,
Huh?
let me throw in something, because our team has been scanning every day different organizations bigger than yours,
Of course.
organizations smaller than yours, no? And one thing magical that we've been noticing across the board is that organizations are now really starting to take care, in a very real sense, listen up, of their people, of their employees. Whereas before it was like this, if you can see me,
Yes.
right talk, right?
Yeah.
Now, whether it's at the organizational policy level or individual leaders with their 4-person team or with their 12-person team, they're really taking time to take care of their people, whether it's formally through programs or making themselves available or doing this or that. Why? Because I think we've come to a point, maybe it's the first time in human history, I might dare say this, where we are all in this together. We're all in the same boat. It doesn't matter if you're Manny O or you're Andre Yap or you're Juan de la Cruz. We are all scared. We are all confined. We are all locked down. We are all vulnerable. And because we feel that about our employees, about people who are less fortunate than us, then it becomes more than just trite words now, no? So this is one example of how experiencing pain can make us be not just more empathetic, but more compassionate because it forces us to act. You said by your fruits they will be known. By our actions we shall be known. So I see now as I scan, as my team scans organizations big and small, people taking care of people in a way that before they were just words. And this is ennobling and this is instructive in the way that we can make baon, carry within ourselves. How do we go forward? How do we embrace the pains in our lives so that we can act in a more compassionate way? Which is to say, we can act where we can give more of the what's good in ourselves to better others. Let me now shift this conversation to Father Gus, who has, I think, a unique perspective about this because as a Jesuit administrator, a president of a Jesuit university. Yes, you mentioned Kathmandu, the great big earthquake of 2015. That was, around here we're still waiting, keeping our fingers crossed for the big one. Maybe this is the big one. I don't know what's bigger than this. But that has brought you to that perspective. On the other hand, it has also brought you to the perspective of being exposed to, as many Jesuit institutions are, to the halls of power and wealth and leadership in our own societies. The Jesuits are known for that, dealing with the halls of power. And of course, your official, your doctorate has been about studying, in your case, Nepal's leaders, and how has Jesuit education made them contributed to their education. So when it comes to, and of course you have been a spiritual director, as many Jesuits are, to many individuals, right? So you have your own perspective, besides your own experience of pain, you've probably heard from and studied and experienced a whole spectrum of pain from other people. What can you comment about how pain has moved people? In some cases, pain has just become broken and it stays there. But in some cases, pain has become an alchemy of wonder, of miracle, of elevating an individual 10 times, 20 times into a kind of transcendence that they never knew, only because they experienced that pain. Maybe you can comment on that or give us an insight. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Andre. When we put this in a larger perspective, what I see is, as I think it was Sir Manny who mentioned, God has his own way to mold us. Pain is one ingredient of forming an individual to be more loving in life. And from the stories that we heard from each of us, the pain, the aspects of pain, the experiences of pain, those all were certain ingredients that brought the person to what one he or she is. Ultimately, it all comes within the framework of love. What I can understand is, being a Jesuit and the journey that I have had as a Jesuit in the last 27 years, every day is a day that is called to grow in deeper love. That deeper love with God, who embraced us as we are, with our own brokenness and limitations and our own inner battles that we fight. And that love is much a bigger umbrella than the little pains that we suffer. So the anchoring point of one's life is that deep love. And I think even today, as we face this, the greatest pain that I faced in the recent days was yesterday. That when I heard Father Pat Falguera, whose sister is in the States, New York, and she passed away, suspected of this virus. And she lives alone, there's nobody along with her. And my own brother, who stays with me, Father Pat, and the way the pain that he goes through has become part of my pain. Not being able to reach out to his sister. And I think in many ways, the way that I have going through that restlessness of my soul is spending a lot of time in praying for the people who are in need. I remember I have many faces in my mind that who comes regularly for Mass in Ateneo chapels. These days I say my private Mass, taking much longer than I take otherwise, remembering each one of them at the altar and praying for them. That's a little drop of an ocean to that big restlessness and pain that my soul goes through. Andre, I think this all calls us into a deeper embrace of God's love, to understand that deeper sense of love where God has an individual plan, an individual way to reach out to each one of us.
Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father Gus. I hope I am one of those people you are spending extra time for, whose face pops up in your virtual masses. I have to confess, Father, I really do miss, in a very, I don't know, I cannot describe the words, the way I miss Mass and Holy Communion every day. So I hope you will continue to pray for all of us in this moment of lack and want. And if nothing else, maybe that pronounces in us our desire to be with God, whoever we define God to be, whether it's Allah or Buddha or Jesus or Yahweh, whatever it is that this moment in human history unites us in this deeper yearning to be in communion with that force that is bigger than us and that is in us, whoever and whatever we call them. No? So thank you, Father, for that. Joana, if I can throw it your way, can you zero in amongst all the being a flight steward, being in aviation, I will use the runway. You have such a long runway of pain that you described to us. Can you pick a moment or a point in that runway that really was defining for you in terms of turning you from a person who just experienced pain, and that's all of us, we experience pain. But there are some individuals who rise above experience and they say, I experienced this and therefore I am going to act. Is there any particular moment stands out in your runway of pain where it became a matter of, yes, I experienced this, I was hurt, it broke me, but it's not going to stay there because I am going to act. I am going to make this pain a gift. Yeah.
Probably it's the most recent one. Going through, I know that a lot of people are going through a lot of mental health issues, and I wasn't spared from it. So I'm not over it yet, I know. But one thing is clear to me. A few years back, I was searching the net, and this question keeps on popping up. It says, why is it that God allows bad things to happen to good people? So I was like, this statement that really just got stuck in my head. The answer that really made an impact was, it's because God does not allow bad things to happen if He cannot draw something good from it. And for me, that good thing is the compassion and love that kind of that's created in your heart or in your inner self that pushes you to do something better each day, waking up, trying to think of ways that you can make a difference in this world. So right now, that's the most recent. I think that the when it comes to mental health issues, depression or anxiety is not really, it doesn't happen with the snap of a finger. It happens because of all the things that happen in your life. So I would say the most recent one is what's really pushing me now to be able to share whatever I can to people so that they can be whole and so that they can give the best of themselves, being pushed by love and compassion.
So I can share with a bit of liberty and permission from Joana. The irony of, bear in mind, let's be secular for a while. Joanna's title is she is the managing partner for our Center for Peak Experiences. It's the Ignite Center for Peak Experience. So we go out there and we go to primarily big corporations, and we do leadership, teamwork, strategic planning, purpose, these types of events for organizations, for leaders and their teams. And our managing partner, who is at the top of all of this, is herself, while we speak of the theme of wholeness, is herself suffering from anxiety and depression. And that is something that, from a personal perspective, meaning between me and Joana and our team, is quite challenging, because of course there's that irony of that. I mean, what business do you have going out to the world, going out to corporations, offering wholeness and well-being, where the person who is leading it is herself broken? And I think it comes with a certain sense of humility that, well, who is not broken, right? This personal struggle that we are open to being transparent to the world about is part of our ministry and our mission and our service, in this sense, where the essence of our work is to say that you can turn your pain into a gift. And when we say that, we can point to ourselves. We can point this finger to ourselves, and we're saying, well, we are turning our pain into gifts. We're not waiting for ourselves to become perfectly whole. We are, in the middle of our pains, trying to give back. No? And I think that's, take from that what you will. So from there, I want to thank Joana. Tony Meloto. You have a very vast runway of pain, as you told us. And I'm very grateful for your openness and authenticity and candidness in sharing, from the pain of a broken family, poverty, mental retardation, sickness, your own psoriasis, your own struggles, etc. It's a long runway of pain. When people look at you, Tito Tony, they see a man who is so eminently distinguished. We could take 100 people, Tito Tony, and line up their lives, and maybe in some human measure, they would never measure up in 3 lifetimes to what you have done. And yet you have gone through so much pain. Could you pinpoint, Tito Tony, as a matter of sharing with us, was there a point in your life where you can look back and say, this was the pain, or this was the moment that that transformed me from just somebody who experienced and suffered pain to somebody who is now more compassionate and willing and open to act because I suffered pain? Tito Tony? Yeah.
Thank you, Andre.
Yeah.
I've been so touched by the sharings and of people who I personally know, particularly Manny, because we are kindred spirits in also turning our pain into an opportunity to build a kinder world. And I know that even COVID, it will give us a surprise, because it will be a blessing in disguise. After COVID, the world will be kinder.
Yes.
And the world will be more compassionate. So we are now in we're the turning point in my life basically was when I became a father, and I came to realize that that fatherhood is a gift from God, and having now 5 children, 11 grandchildren who are normal. was God's way of really healing me. And I came to realize that by also through God's love and forgiveness and acts of kindness, that I can continue to heal myself. I can actually become a father to the poor. I can be a father to the broken. And I came to realize that I can also help even the rich address their own poverty. And by connecting them to a life of purpose, that's what attracted me to also be active with Ignite and to accept your invitations, because I felt that the issues that you're dealing with encompasses our shared humanity. And right now, we realize too after COVID that those are privileged with a good life and opportunities will be more compassionate and will be more generous in helping those who are less fortunate. And somehow, COVID has re-energized me. At 70 years old, I thought that was the end of the road for me. But it helped me to realize that the next decade or so after COVID, that there will be longer life expectancy, because people will be really focusing on improving physical and spiritual and emotional and mental health. And if people like me at 70 or those who are 80 will be given also extra time by God and extra resources, then we can actually make we cannot retire from doing good, and we can actually help the young to build a much safer and a happy world than what they will inherit from us. So I am excited for the lockdown to be over, to go back to the farm and to work with as many of my friends now who I think are starting to overcome their own fear, their own pain, and now will proactively go out of their way now to really make a difference in their own area in small ways or in big ways. But I'm very happy that you have started this conversation, Andre, because a lot of our friends in the corporate world after retirement are looking for purpose and meaning. And there will be a lot of people also on the ground that we can connect them with. So everyone, I think, is now on a new space. There will be less greed and selfishness and conflict after COVID. I feel that even our football players have taken a 70% off their pay, and the top entertainers are outdoing each other in giving, in sharing the huge wealth with the less fortunate. So we are starting to see the silver lining in all of this even before the quarantine is over. And I'm just so eager not just to go to the supermarket to buy food, but I want to be able to produce food so that we can share it with the hungry even beyond COVID. So after Taal, I want to, I saw again how people from my generation can still live an active life, because it was not just only feeding the evacuation centers, but they even started to build toilets in many of our public schools, because during the evacuations, many of the people from the big city who in the big villages went out of their way to volunteer with the eruption victims. But I think after COVID, gradually people will start to really see that. Even here where I live, the homeowners are feeding our security guards, so because they cannot go home. So just little acts of kindness everywhere, and I think COVID will not only unleash this virus, this deadly virus, but also we will defeat COVID with this if we unleash also the power of kindness throughout the world. So I want to thank you, Andre, for starting this, and we hope that we can invite more of our friends to also share in what God has done for them during this time of quarantine, when we have time to really pray, because we have all discovered that the greatest power to overcome our pain and our fear is the love of God. God bless you all. Stay safe.
Thank you, Tito Tony. Of course, we're winding down, and I wanna just grab, if I may, I wanna grab on something Tito Tony just said, which is something I personally, in my own relationship with Tony Meloto, have encountered in the past year, the past 12 months. It is this phrase, the poverty of the rich. Think about that. The poverty of the rich. And what Tony Meloto and I, as part of Ignite, have meant by that, as part of our mission, has been to dialogue with people who have, leaders who control inordinate amounts of resources, whether it be through their professional workforce, through the cash reserves they have, the market reach that they have, is to dialogue with them and bring into their consciousness not a charitable or non-profit sense of, hey, we should do more for the poor, and therefore here's this check and I'll write a checkbook. But really trying to make them understand that in the course of business, in the course of trying to make profit, how can we figure out a model where we do good for ourselves, but we also do good for society as a matter of deep down compassion. We care. It's not corporate social responsibility so I can make this press release, but we care. And actually, in the context of individual leaders, I care. Why do I care? Because somehow or another, as a human being, I have been exposed to this pain. I have felt this pain. I have felt this pain for myself. I have felt this pain for the people I love. And because I have felt this pain, I am open now to dedicating my life, not my extra, but my life. Every day that I work and get up for, I can be more dedicated to sharing and making this world a better place. For real. And I do believe with the stories that we've heard today, and Tony Meloto echoed it very clearly. I believe, and you can quote me on this, that humanity, we are living through historical days. This will be written about in historical textbooks. But I believe that for the more discerning of historians and for the more discerning of human beings, we will look back to these days and we will point to these days as golden days.
Yes.
These were the days when humanity, compassion for people, especially from people who have, we talk about the poverty of the rich. This was when the poverty of the rich was shattered a little bit more. Every day, because of my work, I talk to people who are at the very top of corporations, the CEOs. I talk to people who live in Forbes Park. And for the first time, they are talking about real things. Human beings that they never really honestly cared about, honestly. And now they're talking about it like they were their next door neighbor. Because you know what? In Forbes Park, the poor people are their next door neighbors. As in my village, the poor people, I can point to you out my windows, and somewhere in the horizon, I can pinpoint poor people. And now we are all on the same boat. And this common suffering, this common experience of pain, I believe we will be able to point to as golden days of humanity, because I have to point back to the poverty of the rich. which I point to the poverty of all of us who are in this webcast right now, from the confines of our own homes, safe, that we can do so much more. And because, you know why? Because we have felt so much more. We have experienced so much more. We have felt the equality of human beings when it comes to pain and when it comes to dependence on forces bigger than ourselves. So I hate to sound preachy, but that's my reflection and my very grateful takeaways from our guests for today. After this, I have been drafted in my own village of about 1,000 homeowners. We have subdivided because of the socio-economic situation. We have subdivided our village into smaller subdivisions. And I have been asked to lead one of the subdivisions. And we have a 5 p.m., in other words, in 15 minutes meeting, all hands on deck, on very crucial situations where we have to make decisions that will impact the safety and security of my neighbors and of people who are around us. But I am spending this time with you, and I want to ask each of our friends, each of the 4 of our friends, to leave us with the parting words of what they have learned and what they want to impart to each of us about these 3 words, especially anchored in these times that we live in, unprecedented times in all of history. These 3 words are pain as a gift. Pain as gift. So Joana, ladies first. You are on mute, Joana. You're muted.
Okay, all I can say is that pain is part of life. There's no way to hide from pain. So the only best way for us to do is embrace pain and draw whatever goodness that you have in yourself for you to be able to bring out that love and compassion, for you to be able to make a difference in this world.
Thank you, Joana, very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Manny O?
Yeah, I 100% agree that this COVID-19 will be, when this is all over, it is a blessing because the world will work and live differently. There will be a lot of love. And love translated into action. Because this is kind of a training ground in the few months that everybody cannot just love in words, as you said. In fact, in 1 Corinthians 13, it says, if you have not love, you are only a clanging cymbal. Because I say this in the secular way of saying it. Action talks, bullshit walks. So basically, it goes back to that. So my point here, my take home is, since your forum is a forum of corporate, the question is, how do we, let's say, God change us, make us produce good fruit through pain and brokenness? How can we bring this to corporate? I would like to share what we do in my organization. Since 2013, after Yolanda, when we formed Hope Now Foundation, we all decided that we're gonna make this corporate. Everyone in the organization has to be involved. During that time, Manny O Group employed over 6,000 people. So we had to adopt, as I said, the corporate philosophy that it's not all about us. And what is the corporate objective? Everything we do has to be pleasing to God. Everything is found in the basic instructions before leaving earth. It's not a religion. It is something we can live and apply in our life. So the point is this: we make an undertaking that everyone in the organization knows, including in my business, the janitors, the gardeners, the housekeepers, the person who washes pots and pans, that if they do their job well, they're literally contributing to Hope Now Foundation, because with their efficiency,
Yes.
they can produce more. So the organization, which has earmarked a certain percentage to help people,
Can.
it's again a supply chain of money, if you wanna put it that way.
Yeah.
It's a supply chain. So it's very important that the entire thing that we talk about and we do not only is manifested in our lives, it has to be manifested in the organization. At the end of the day, the only way when a person runs a big organization to have a sustainable organization and a growing organization, because you cannot just use money to motivate people, or fear, or power. The only thing that you can use, and the only thing, this is my experience, is love.
True.
The Bible, to close, the Bible talks about faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of all is love. So that's my closing. And we're all doing this purely for the glory of God, because all of this is God's work. We're just instruments. We are oikonomos, Greek word for trustee of the resources. God bless you all, and God have mercy on us all.
Thank you, Tito Manny. So eloquently put. Tito Tony, do you want to follow in the footsteps of this eloquent gentleman, who is your friend, our dear friend, Tony Meloto?
I am so happy just listening to my good friend Manny, because
Likewise here.
the love of God, the love of God leaps out of his heart and his mouth. But during this time of doom and gloom, unprecedented in our lifetime, the light of God will shine brightest, and God will unleash the power of his love in the hearts of people never seen before. We will, so much power will be unleashed after this to make the world, to heal the world, and to make the next generation, to make the world safer for future generations. I just want to thank God for protecting us during this time, and may his love and protection be with you and your family. Manny, Father Gus, Joana, Andre, and to all our friends who might be listening right now. Let's just continue to pray for one another, because he has given us all the time to pray, because it's only through prayer that we can unleash all the good that is in this world. Amen.
Thank you, Tito Tony. We are humbled. Last but not the least, the Jesuit priest from Kerala.
Thank you, Andre. And I am really moved by all the sharings, and especially how grounded our senior inspiring gentlemen were. And that itself is a food for thought for me. For me to wind up, I would just say, I understand the pain as the restlessness of my soul. And that restlessness comes from the great goodness of the heart. And that great goodness is the one that we heard from everyone. And maybe my prayer is that we cherish that great goodness, that loving heart, and become more loving and lovable, and human beings become more real to us in every aspect of our life. That's it. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you, one and all. So I will end with this, which is a theme that all our four guests ended with. And before I do that, I apologize to our audience. This was just, we have done probably since the epidemic started. I gave you that timeline earlier, right? We are probably somewhere in day 25 since my team committed to be of public service, to offer programming like this. We're probably in day 25. And we have literally offered hundreds of hours of free public service, such as what you're experiencing today. With great joy, by the way. I don't mean to say that in any kind of like, oh, we're suffering here and we're getting, no. We've done it with great joy. But this has been the most forceful 2-3 hours of those hundreds of hours that we have offered. And if I will ask the team, the backstage team, to post the question again, which has been the heart of our conversation. No? How has this been true in your life? And as they post that, I just want to leave you with this thought. With thanks again to our dear friends, the four, Father Gus, Manny O, Tito Tony, and Joana. All of them in their parting words alluded to one word, which is love. I'm not a mushy guy. Anybody who has worked with me knows I am focused on results and impact. And you know what? That is why love is of the essence. Let me leave you with a definition of love as we have in our Type 18 offered it to each of us. Love. Love is offering the very best of yourselves to whoever it is that you love. I think that is not possible to offer the very best of yourselves. So in my case, it is all my talents, but it is also all my pains. That is part of the very best of myself. I cannot separate my pain. And by the way, thank you to our four speakers because you spared me from having to talk about my own pains. If you notice.
Yes.
But if I am able to offer this impact to the world as an act of love, it is every bit because I am talented, but also because I have suffered pain. And because of that, I am able to offer and to pour out the very best of myself, despite all my flaws, every day. And this is something that has greatly touched me as it has been shared by our four friends. I'm very grateful. I'm very humbled. And I hope that as we post this prayer or this thought for discernment again, how has this been true in my life? It is on your screens. I hope you will take it home with you and reflect on it with humility, because the times we have been given, which is unprecedented in human history, this will be written about in textbooks. There is a way to see them as the halcyon days, the golden age of compassion, because we have all been humbled with pain. Pain that knows no socioeconomic class, knows no CEO, knows no priest, knows no talent. We are all just in pain. And we have seen great love come out of this pain. So it is Friday, TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. I hope you have poured out all that is good in yourself over the course of this week. With our friends, Father Gus, Manny O, Tony Meloto, Joana, Alberto, I want to sign off and wish you a blessed, humbled weekend full of love. This is Ignite Peak Experiences signing off. Thank you very much for joining us. God bless you all.
God be.
Thank you.
Happy hour. Let's go.